especially since the cab corner is just a little, there's some surface rust here in this area right here. Welcome back to the channel. It's a Saturday, it's in the afternoon, and if I were to tell you the truth, I would say there are at least 4 customer cars here that require my time and energy. But you know what? It's Saturday afternoon, and every once in a while, you just got to work on your own stuff and just relax a bit. So, we're going to bring you up to speed on the 1962 International C110. Also some might call it a 112. It's actually on the registration, it says a 112, but it's got the 110 badge right here. And I haven't, done the Google research to figure out what the difference is. Anywho, V8, I forget, 266 V8. We got it running and driving and kind of sort of stopping. We took it to the car show a few weeks ago, and then we brought it home, and it's kind of sat. We have what some might call a fuel delivery issue. On the inside, we made some floor mats to cover up the mat that's already been patched and the floor that's been patched, but we cleaned it up pretty good, and then it's got a C10 seat in it that eventually will get recovered. But the doors shut like they should, and overall we're in pretty good shape. We've got tail lights, headlights, 1 brake light, and 1 park light back here, but that's probably socket issues and bulb issues that we can sort out. We don't have any turn signals. We're gonna have to get one of those, clamp it onto the steering column, old style truck driver turn signal switches, which is also not a big deal. Passenger doors working like it should. Life is pretty good overall. Now, our fuel delivery issue though, and you've heard me complain about it before, we've got fuel tanks under this side of the truck right here. And here's our outlet, comes up, goes to the carburetor. And yeah, so the pickup is in the back of the tank. Must be a long tube that goes through there, and every once in a while the end of that tube gets filled up with, well, the fuel looks a little bit rusty when we unclog it. But anyway, it gets clogged up, and you got to take this off and physically blow air in there with your own, lung capacities, and then it'll run good again. But it's starting to irritate me, because even just to move it around, some days it'll run good for a little while, some days it'll run good for 2 minutes. So what we're going to do today, instead of doing what we should do and do work on customer rigs, we're going to take a little bit of time to ourselves. We're going to pull this in here. We're going to try to drop this tank, and I'm going to show you how we're going to also try to clean up this fuel tank and eliminate that fuel starvation issue. Let's get it in here and get to work. All right, it's in. It's up in the air on this side, at least a little bit. Before we get going, I'm going to take a moment. This is 1962, late 60s here we're talking about. And what you see on the bench right here, we actually pulled out from the little cubby under the seat. And if you go up here, watch the short we did. But this is your 1962 to 68, 9, whatever-ish, even 70s. My car broke down on the highway. Do I call somebody with a laptop to come retune it? No. You have a hammer that takes care of fuel delivery issues at the carburetor, and also starter issues if the starter's getting ornery. And then you have your ignition system, which consists of a cap, a condenser, points, and a rotor. You keep this in your car in the 60s and 70s for the most part, you can get yourself out of your own jam if you break down on the side of the road. As far as this tank goes, I think it's pretty straightforward. We've got a, I'm scared to think about it, but this appears to be a flex radiator hose that somebody installed as a fill hose. Seems to be working though. And then you have your vent hose, looks to be about a 1/2 inch. And then we got our feeder line that we know is 5/16. And then we have one strap and two straps down there. And otherwise pretty, you know, it's simple setup. Now, is it going to be simple to get out of there? I don't know. It's got some damage here, by the way, but no leakies. So what we need to do is we need to get this hose off. We'll probably take it off the tank end here. We're going to call the Irish parts store, and if they have 1/2 inch up to 1/2 inch size fuel line, we're just going to snip the vent rather than fight that old hard hose, and then we'll replace that. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we're going to make sure this one's kind of been, this first strap bolt, somebody really, I mean, that looks like one of my welds. So somebody's, you know, been practicing. But we got to make sure we can get these two strap bolts will turn at least, and we can start to work with them, because if these go south, then we're going to stomp on the brakes what little bit we have and you know, regroup. Well, the good news is this guy started backing right off, and then we went to the rear one and hit it, and well, we quite quickly found that the entire, I guess this would be the rocker, bottom of the rocker that the fuel tank strap bolts to is, well, gone pretty much. So yeah, it's not gonna unbolt. We're gonna come in next with a cutoff wheel. We're gonna cut this bolt off right here, and then we'll finish unhooking the tank. I don't want to put a whole bunch of fuel vapors in around here when we're using a cutoff wheel. Even once we get the tank cleaned up, before we can go back in, we're going to have to make a plate to go inside of this rocker and repair that. It's even soft all the way up to here. Now up in here it's not too bad. The weep hole there, this is where water's supposed to be able to drain out, is plugged. So I imagine this whole thing's full of stuff, especially since the cab corner is just a little, there's some surface rust here in this area right here. Got our bolt cut. That wasn't too bad. It's a little hot. And then this is the top part that was down inside on top of the rocker plate, and where we cut it off. And then this is the actual rocker plate. Like I said, some surface rust there. So before we go back together, we're going to have to address that. And yeah, the tank did not fall. So we're going to go ahead and continue disassembly at the front with the hoses. And then when we start to get to the point where we're actually going to try to leverage this tank down a little bit, we'll bring you guys back in. Okay, let's see what happens here. Front nut. That looks like we've got some stuckies on here. Washer. Strap down. This one do straps down. I should be able to just fold those flat, like so. And like so. And then what if we do this? Oh, look at there, it's coming down. Okay. Now as we go, it's going to take just a minute because I got to fiddle with stuff up here. Most notably, the fill. Oh, the fill hose is going to come right out. Okay. Then let's just continue to enhance the removal. Let's go some more, huh? Okay. Now let's try to be nice here. Could this be one of the quickest and easiest fuel tank drops ever? Yeah. Oh, we gotta get that vent hose out. It's coming. There we go. Looky there, you guys. It's pretty much out. Piece of pie. Okay, I'm excited. We're out. That was not too bad at all. We're going to take this and probably just carry it out to there. We need to get it, all the stuff blowed off of it. And then we're going to assess the rocker bottom, the bottom of the rocker and stuff. Updates, and they ain't good. Fuel tank's out. We blew it off a little bit. The outside looks pretty good, but I spied, and you can kind of see, I mean, that's what we're dealing with. That kind of rusty's in there. Real quick before we go and try to clean this up, I did get on the Googles, and I used one, $500, and I could only find one, and we're just not going to do that at this point. What we are going to do is, there's a tried and true method. I've done it on motorcycle tanks lots of times and a couple vehicle fuel tanks over the years, is we're going to try to knock out all the loose rust in there and make it so it'll feed nice, mostly rust-free, clean fuel. And then we're just gonna kind of fill it up and keep it full of good fuel and try to keep it from rusting any further and clogging up that pickup tube again. So right now I think it's got 6 or 8 gallons of gas in it. Even though the fuel gauge on the dash seemed to be working, we were driving it around and stuff, I don't know where this guy was connected, so and it didn't fight coming off, but I mean, we'll fix it. But we may not have had a working gas gauge. It just kind of might be doing its own thing in the dash there. But either way, for now, I'm going to show you, you know, preliminarily how rusty the gas is, and that's going to freak you out. And then, you know, we're going to go through a little bit of trouble to clean it up. But I got 2 buckets over here. I don't have any extra gas cans right now. So for right now, the old gas is going in the buckets, and then we're gonna have to decide in short order what we're gonna do with it. But yeah, here's what we're dealing with. And the buckets aren't completely clean to start with, but You'll see. They don't need to be. You might be able to tell just by, you know, the slight change in color coming out. Come on now. Oh no. I said come on now. Oh. There might be a little rust in the fuel. It looks like maybe closer to, probably right around 8 gallons. There. So that's what we're dealing with, and we're going to try to make it better. Wish me luck. All right, well, here's the redneck approved way to deal with, or to attempt to deal with, a rusty gas tank. Now, you got to be careful with this method. Couple things. I've looked in here, and this is my filler, and it drops. It doesn't protrude past here. On like motorcycles and some car tanks, the filler tube will go into here a bit, and this method may not work if the filler tube is longer than or protrudes into the tank more than just where it connects in the side. This is not the case. So whatever I put into this tank to knock the rust loose, I should be able to get it back out of this hole right here. So that being said, what we have is we've got marbles laying around from the last time I did this, and because it's a bigger tank, we ran into town to the old one-stop shop grocery store, found another bag of marbles, and then at the same place we got some grade, I don't know, 5 maybe, 2, looks like grade 5 1/4-inch nuts, 100 of them in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to throw all that into the tank, and we're going to get the hose from over there. We're going to put a gallon or 2 of water in here. Yes, water. I know we're trying to get rid of rust, but we really can't do much more damage than what's going on. And water's way cheaper than fuel. But we're gonna shake this thing around on the sawhorses here about as much as we can. Tip it, roll it. There's a baffle right around here. I can see the sending unit. It's ugly too, by the way, through here. I can see this guy. But the problem is the pickup tube is way down here, and there's no way to get to it, because there's a big baffle right here, and the baffle is attached to the bottom of the tank. So we're gonna have to flip our tank on its top to get our media, is what we're gonna call this, down to that end, and then flip it back over and rub it around in the rust on all sides and whatever. But we're gonna do that probably about 6 billion times until the water that pours out of here is clear. Once we get to that point, we'll blow it all out as best we can. There's a drain in this tank too, by the way. We'll drain what we can. We'll blow out the tank the best we can and get it just as dry as possible. And then we'll throw a couple gallons of fuel in it, swishy swash that around, and then just discard that in the bucket. And then it's a matter of making sure we can blow through this very easily and we got good flow. And then we bought some new stuff to make a new filler hose, some new vent hose, and another inline filter that we're going to put right here on the outlet of the tank moving forward. So that's the plan. Some of these jobs, if they're real rusty, like there's cleaners and stuff you can get for these tanks, chemical cleaners. The problem with trying that is if they're real rusty inside, and that's why we're only using 1/4-inch nuts and marbles. You could put bigger stuff in there and really start beating around in there, but if it's that bad, you don't want to poke through and dislodge a piece of rusty metal that's gonna, you know, really ruin your day. I don't think we're that bad in there, but we're going to use 1/4 inch nuts and marbles and water, and we're going to clean up this tank. Now you might be asking yourself, hey Jarrett, what if the filler neck does protrude into the tank and I can't get out, I won't be able to just pour out the media that I put in? The cure for that is ice. Crushed ice or ice cubes, as long as they fit in there. Put a whole bunch of ice in there, a little bit of water, and that same thing, because then the ice melts and it all comes out. Alright, I've done that process that you just kind of watched in the fast motions 3 times. And here's where I've been spilling out the water. You can see the marbles and the hardware in there, my media that I've been using. I believe the tank is empty. No more stuff banging around in there. We have 2 tests. I've got about maybe 2-3 gallons of water in there. First, we got to make sure that we got good flow. This is our fuel out to the carburetor, and then I'm going to show you, you know, there's still rust in there. I looked in there at the flashlight. It still ain't pretty, but at least the loose stuff, the stuff that's going to cause the clogs, should be gone. And if we can keep it full of fuel, we should be able to keep it, you know, from continuing to rust, theoretically. But yeah, we need to make sure we can get fuel to flow out of here, and then I'll go ahead and pour it out of here, and you can see how clean this water is versus that first shot of gas that we dumped. Well, you can't see, can you? Let's put you here. Can you see there? Here, maybe if you're looking here. Oh, looky there. We got good flowage, and it's clean. Okay, test number 1 passed. Now, we could sit here and do this for a day and a half and try to get more and more rust out of it, but at some point you just got to say, you know what? Let's roll with it. We'll slosh it around a little bit. That's our water coming out. No chunkies. It's gurgling, so that's good. That means we don't have any other leaks in the tank. The big ones anyway. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now the last test is we got to get most all the water out. And then we got to shake it around a little bit. Make sure there's no marbles or other media in there left. And also, I don't hear any rust particles floating around in there. So we're done. We're gonna blow out the inlet now a lot. We're just gonna put a lot of air through this thing. We gotta pick up our mess underneath here. But for the most part, we are done. Now we gotta go fix that rocker where the strap bolt mounts to. All right, back under the truck, and I apologize, the air compressor's running because I'm blowing the heck out of that gas tank. Here's what we're gonna do under here. This is where the strap, I guess, connection goes right here. The strap kind of hugs both sides of the rocker lip, and then one end of the strap protrudes kind of up in here and it holds, and then the bolt went up through here. Well, we got a big hole here. What we're going to do is we're going to come against the inside of this rocker, and we can access that because of the surface rust over here where my finger is. And we're going to come in with a plate that's got a 90 in it, and we'll do a sheet of steel from about here to about here, and it'll have probably 1, 2, we got some good metal here, believe it or not, 3 holes here, and then 1 hole on the bottom that we will bolt that to. We're not going to cut any of this out and weld right now because, quite frankly, we're not prepared to do that. We got other stuff to do this next week, and we're not sure that we're going to dive into this particular repair quite that deep. But this patch, kind of putting a 90 and a sheet of steel in there, and then we'll bolt up through that for the gas tank hanger. That's going to be held on here and here, and it will not come off. So I'm going to bend that up real quick. We'll drill some holes. We'll get some little bolts in there, probably 5/16ths, and yeah, then we'll be ready to lift that tank back in. We got updates. Well, first of all, it's getting dark. It's almost 8 o'clock, so we started this 2-ish, 3-ish. Let's spend a couple hours on one of our own projects. But hey, that's what happens when you're dealing with old 60-year-old rusty old cool hot rods. All right, that's part of it. And my feelers are not hurt. Tank is done for all intents and purposes. We blew it all out a bunch. It sat in the sun for a while, and then we took about 2 gallons of non-ethanol unleaded and put it in there and swishy swashed it, moved it all around, and then we did get the drain plug loose, and we drained it out. Now that fuel that came out was pretty rusty red, but you got to remember, fuel itself is a solvent. So now it's going through, we knocked the big chunks out, and now it's going through and it's kind of, rinsing things off. So now over here, and I had to shut the door and get in here because these late fall mosquitoes, they're little guys, but they're mean, you guys. They're like, that movie, not the Bodyguard, the Bounty Hunter with the Rock and the other kid from American Pie. Great movie, by the way. But you know that scene where he goes down there and I'm just gonna get this kid, and here's this little Asian guy, and then the little Asian guy that's part of the resistance just beats his ass. Yeah, these fall mosquitoes, they're those little Asian guys, and I'm not anything close to what Dwayne the Rock is. So yeah, I'm hiding in the shop is what I'm saying. But what we're doing here is, I put it up here. Here's our piece. We got about a 16 gauge piece of sheet metal. Broke 2 inches up. The long part is about 4 1/8. We got 3 holes in it. It's gonna go in here like so, using our access panel that was created by the surface rust. And we're going to slide it in there, and then those 3 holes. Now I know this isn't the best metal to be bolting to, but it's going to hold just fine. We've got a hole here, right here. We've got a hole up here. We got into the better metal there. And then we've got a hole under here. It'll line up. It's just kind of slid in there for right now. Here, hang on. I'll get closer for you just so you know. There, how about that? And we've got a hole here. And we went and we vacuumed out this whole rocker, and it took like 15 minutes. Now the weep hole, remember how that was plugged? It's wide open now. So we aren't going to have any more rust issues. And then from the outside, from the surface rust side, it just kind of looks like that. So we're going to get that bolted in, and then we got to drill a hole for the gas tank strap up, and then yeah, we're going to lift the tank in here. Okay, here's my tank mount, I guess patch you'd call it. There's our new metal 2 bolts on the inner rocker, 1 bolt through the bottom of the rocker, and then the piece itself also lies or sits on top of this edge here. So we're good there. Let's go ahead and stab this tank in and finish this couple hour project now that we're pushing 10 o'clock. Okay, we're scratching 11 o'clock here, but I think we're good. We put a new Wix filter in line. We're not going to rely on the factory filter. It's old. I am going to try to find an element. It's attached to the fuel pump up there. It's really cool, but right down in there. But it's really, you know, unobtainable. But anyway, we are ready to check this, and we got about 3.5 gallons of fresh gas in it. Let's go hit the key and see. Hopefully we get a little bit of idle back. We're starting to lose our quality of idle, and I think maybe that had something to do with some dirty fuel. Here we go. Pretty good. We're charging. We got some oil pressure. I can tell you right now, it's more responsive already. Are we getting fuel already up there? Oh, look at that. Nice smooth idles back. There we go. That's what we like to see. Check the leaks. See none. We've got fuel there. All right. So how do we make this last? Well, we got to keep fuel in it. We're going to drive it around. We'll put another couple gallons in it, and then tomorrow we'll take her for a little dirt road cruise. Make sure that it's going to run good and run out good. As long as it's real happy, we'll go ahead and put a bunch of fuel in it so it doesn't rust the inside of that tank. But hey, the C110 hopefully is back up and running. Insert video of rusty chunks here for reference. That's my thumb, and these are just some of the chunks that I picked out of the ground that came out of that tank. Now these aren't, you know, it's rust, but it's also,
You know how like in a tire sometimes you get a chunk of something and it'll roll around? That's what these are. This is like a rock tumbler where these just kind of rolled around and grew and gathered rust particles and dirt and all kinds of stuff. But we should be in pretty good shape now. We'll see what happens when we go drive it.